Oops.
I'm trying to be better about not printing things.
You know how to shut your mic off? You just push that?
I think you're right. All right, so it's 6:32. We have a quorum. I heard from Alexa. She's unable to attend. I didn't hear from Brenda. So I don't know if you want to just get started.
Sure.
Okay.
Call the meeting to order at 6:33.
Oh, wait. Are you Brenda? Yes. Hello. Welcome.
Sorry for being tardy.
Oh, that's okay.
Just 10 minutes late. Don't worry about it.
So we have Jeremy Smalley is on remote.
Perfect, thank you.
Let me get my pen. Okay, so roll call. Mary Lester,
Here?
Michael Toomey,
Here?
Paul Guthrow,
Yeah.
Jocelyn
Eureka Mart. Here.
Rademar, yes. Brenda,
Here. Jeremy Smalley.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, Jeremy, I forgot you were ready.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm here.
Out of sight, out of mind.
That's really true. So we have minutes from February and minutes from March. And if anybody has any changes and they want to do them with changes, or you want to table them, whatever you wish.
These are some minor changes for February, and Mary, if you don't mind, didn't indicate what the changes were, but they were not major.
So we'll do them one at a time. So a motion to approve February's with minor changes and corrections?
Second.
Oh, sorry, I can't motion.
Can someone make
Oh.
someone make a motion?
Suggesting. So Jocelyn?
Motion? And second.
No. Would someone like to make the motion?
So-
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Can we have discussion first?
Oh,
Yes,
sure.
you may.
What was just passed around February 15th? This hard copy in front of us?
Those
Does this
were
contain changes to the February 15th minutes that were emailed to us?
Mr. Toomey's changes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can pick out one of the changes was simply to add to the paragraph where there was discussion between Mr. Federa and myself concerning the waiver, and in direct response to Chairperson Lester's question of why Mr. Federa did not include all 11 test pits performed at the site that attempted to support the request for a recharge, Mr. Federa stated, and that was the only change, was up in there, the language there. Other than that, I think that was it.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it.
I can make it the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Aye.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy.
So that was for February 15th.
Correct.
We're going to do the same for the March meeting? Was that, or was that for both?
Nope, that was just for February.
Okay,
So now
so-
I'm looking for March from Mr.
Are there any
Green.
changes or concerns about March 15th, the way it was written?
I think so.
To be honest, I didn't
Oh, okay.
get a chance, so if the.
Oh,
if
you
they're
want to table it?
acceptable-
If you want to table it, we can carry it forward, whatever you're more comfortable with.
If there were any changes, they would be very minimal.
I'm ready to approve, but if there's a need to table it, by all means, make a motion to table.
I think they're fine with me.
Okay.
Because
And make,
particularly Lanzillo Lane, we're gonna basically, I believe, be starting
okay.
from the beginning, so.
So I make a motion to approve the March 15th minutes as distributed.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. So first on the agenda is the request for determination of applicability brought by Daniel Sewell. Mr. Sewell, are you here? You could come right up here so that Mr. Smalley could see you, and I'll just get out of the way. There you go. And if you speak into the microphone, they'll be able to hear you. But feel free to sit down and get comfortable.
That's okay.
Oh, however you like it.
So I also have copies, if you'd like to see them, there's copies of the site map, as well as pictures of the property. You know, Mary and Michael will come out, but I have pictures.
Were they distributed to us earlier? What year? They were not? Then I would appreciate a copy.
I'd like a copy as well.
Thank you.
I also have some pictures on my phone from this afternoon.
Oh, you went up there?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take it. Thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, hello everyone, my name is Daniel Sewell. I'm a resident of 59 Lake Ave in Lynn. I purchased the property 8 years ago. In discussions with my wife, we have 2 young children. I'll just sit down. I was always told, I work in venture capital, I was always told you're supposed to stand when there's more than 5 people, but I'll break the rules. Hello, internet. So in discussions with my wife, as to make improvements of our home, there's an existing porch that's there. It's noted on the site map, approximately 13 by 17, I believe. 13 by 13 deck that's there. And so we'd like to upgrade the property. And so, as you can tell in New England, snow was forecast yesterday. Luckily it didn't snow in Lynn, but you know, there's only so much time that's usable with a porch that's like that. And so we contacted a local builder in Peabody to look at plans for taking the existing footprint of the porch and making it a 3-season porch, so it would allow for it to be more usable. So it wouldn't be any closer to the water line, any closer to the neighbor's property line. It would simply be the existing footprint, renovating that to be a 3-season porch. We would do the necessary steps for erosion control, and so place the barriers that are there, and then any soil that needs to be removed to put in pilings would be properly handled. So,
And everything will be hand dug. It's not going to be machinery.
yep, it's a narrow way to actually even get into the backyard.
So you were here tonight requesting determination of applicability.
correct.
With the little I know about the process, I think the next step would be for you to submit a notice of intent.
Well,
That's
that
a- that's a
depends on the
question.
determination of the commission. We can make a negative determination indicating that none of the work that's proposed, as it's proposed, impacts any of the interests under the act. And the only, we can, it's kind of frowned upon, but we can make a negative determination with conditions. And the condition that I would recommend would be making sure the erosion controls are there, even though there's gonna be basically no excavation and there's gonna be no disturbance within the 25-foot buffer zone. And I don't know if Mary would agree with me, but I went out and looked at the bank and the site, and there's no bordering vegetation involved along the shoreline there, so it is a 25-foot no disturb zone rather than a 30-foot no disturb zone. And there's plenty of room. And basically, my recommendation for erosion control would be kind of to run right along that corner of the garage, and that gives you plenty of room inside for wheelbarrow work or anything like that. And that would also be a recommendation that, as Mary said, everything's going to be hand dug, but any excavation at all either go on top or go into a wheelbarrow. And the footprint naturally is to remain pretty much the same. There might be a little bit of variation there, but pretty much the same as the existing deck.
Yeah, the other thing I would say comment on also is that the property from the deck to the water is very flat, so I wouldn't worry about runoff issues during the construction process.
Paul is right. It is a jurisdictional area, but my opinion is that the work that's proposed does not impact the wetland itself, and so long as the work is done as proposed. So,
And I agree with that.
So those details, and this is more of a process question, those details of what we just discussed, aren't they part of the notice of intent?
well, they would be, and depending on what determination the commission makes right now, as far as his application for determination of applicability. If we rule either one, the area is not jurisdictional, which is basically what they're looking for at Goldfish Pond, or we rule that the area is jurisdictional, but the work that's proposed doesn't impact any of the interests under the Wetlands
And I
Protection Act.
think that's
And-
the case, right?
Yeah, I would agree, that's
Okay.
right. So if that's the case, then what we would recommend is a negative determination of applicability based on the work as presented. And if there's any variance from the work as presented, then we would issue an enforcement order saying they have to come back and file a
So-
notice of intent.
Let me try to paraphrase you. If we vote in the negative for applicability of this project, the applicant does not have to submit a notice of intent.
Exactly.
I see.
And that, as I said, the big thing there is even though the site is jurisdictional, it's the impact of the work. We can rule that the site is jurisdictional and then say also that the work is going to affect, and then we would issue a positive determination of applicability. And they would have to file, if we issue
got
a
it.
positive,
I got
then
it.
they have to file the notice of intent.
Okay.
Sorry, we're kind of
Yeah,
explaining.
interesting process.
I assumed, just for point of discussion, I assumed that the proximity to the pond was applicable. No
And
questions.
you're absolutely right.
No questions asked.
The,
But it's interesting how the
it's
process.
jurisdictional, but the other side of it is, does it impact the wetland in any way, change the runoff in any way, or?
And how do we ensure that if we vote in the negative to applicability, how do we ensure that the pond's not affected?
Well, we still, like any other project, we still have the right to go out there and inspect at any point. And if things aren't going as proposed, then we have a right to issue an enforcement order that basically shuts everything down, and we could add to the enforcement order requirement to return the site, which is a very expensive process, to return any site to the
Okay.
state that it was
Yeah,
after the work is
Could
done.
also have fines with it associated with the enforcement order, so nothing that the property owner would want to
Right.
risk.
Let's say he decided he wanted to extend it 10 feet closer to the wetland. without getting our permission.
And
that
maybe
would
put a
be shut.
slide into the pond? No.
And
Okay.
if we witnessed any impacts on the pond, then we also could issue an enforcement order.
So it's, again, this is my ignorance to the process.
This is how you learn. This is how we
The follow-up or policing of the construction of the three-season enclosure is left to us?
Well,
And
to the
we-
building department from the standpoint of the building department's interest, but to us as far as impacts on any wetland areas. on
So
the site.
formally, the building department, when they go out and do their in-process inspections, they are our eyes and ears to this project?
Well, and we are, most projects, I'll take a ride by, and once the work has begun, which that would be a requirement that I would make, that you notify us when you start work, so we know that things are going on. So if anybody on the commission wants to take a ride by and view what's going on, they can. And the first thing also would naturally be that the erosion control, I would recommend wattles, but you can use hay bales or wattles, be in place before any work begins.
Pretty much the same as if we issued an NOI, that we do a follow-up
Okay.
on it.
Again, I thought with the proximity to the pond, it
Yeah.
was,
Well, when Dan
But I
contacted
understand.
me, they're not changing anything with the footprint. They're not gonna be excavating like fresh ground.
Mhm.
So it's all gravel there anyway. So I personally don't see any erosion happening with taking out the footings by hand, putting in new footings. There's nothing that's gonna be
Yeah.
impacting the wetlands, in my opinion.
And the wattles or the hay bales are really like a safeguard. In
Right.
case he got started even with a wheelbarrow and we got a torrential summer rainstorm.
Right.
Even if it washed out of the wheelbarrow or off the top, the erosion control would keep it from going into the pond.
when this, with the data presented to me, I was ready to approve this to the next step. But it's just, the way we're approving it is a little bit convoluted to how I imagined it. I
It
imagined
saves
it.
people from having to have a whole process. if
Yeah,
you're just doing
and I
this
get
whole
it,
project.
so I appreciate that. I'm ready.
But you're right about the one thing. If we were to rule positive, then the next step would be
Okay.
exactly what you say.
All right, so I think I'm good. Any more discussion on this?
So I should have said that this was a public hearing, and we have members of the public here. If there's anybody who would like to get up on this matter and express any concerns or support for or against, please feel free. No?
Good.
Jeremy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. If nobody else has anything to add, I'll make a motion for a negative determination, with Mike's stipulation that the erosion control go in and we be notified before work commences.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passed. Oh, sorry, Jeremy. Motion passes.
Thanks, Dan.
You-
Lindsay Lane, is that next?
I took your thing. Yes, it is.
Lindsay Lane, would you mind just coming up here so Mr. Smalley could? He can see you if you're right there and if you speak into the microphone. You can see Jeremy, too. I think the microphone might be up a little too high, the way I have it right there, but.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
I'm Attorney Sam Vitale. I represent the applicant, Z&L Development. For some of you, this is a new proposal. For others, it's an old proposal. But clearly, it's a new filing. It's a new filing which we think has the benefit of a long process that involved detailed review by members who had served for many years on the commission, some of whom are here and some of whom are no longer here. And the reason for the new filing is that there are new members, and there was a determination that notwithstanding that almost 2 years went by and over 20 public hearings were held, that the new members, unless they attended and participated, were unable to vote with respect to the proposal, and therefore it was required to begin anew. But we're not really beginning anew because it's essentially the same proposal, which is to build 8 single-family homes in one of the more desired neighborhoods of the city. And these would be 8 new homes, which would add to the needed housing within the city, obviously help build the residential tax basis. We've gone to the planning board for preliminary approval, and the planning board sent us originally on a fateful day, January 6th of 2020 is when we filed, I think, our notice of intent. We were here in February of that year. Then COVID came, and there were either no meetings or there were meetings by Zoom, and then live meetings have resumed, and fortunately, there are now a quorum of new members. And I think that the new members, I hope, have had a chance to review the application and the petition that was filed. We're here essentially for one reason, and that's for doing work within the 100-foot buffer. As I say, I think we had the benefit of 2 things. One is that a similar proposal was reviewed at the applicant's expense under what's called peer review, in which an engineering company that the commission selected reviewed the proposal. And I think why I would say this is a new and I would acknowledge perhaps even a better proposal is that ultimately my client decided to acquiesce and accede to what the recommendations were of the engineer that you hired to review the proposal. And so at much greater expense, I might say, to do the things that Weston and Sampson and an individual named Jim Reardon, who was the engineer who reviewed the proposal, had recommended. And then there were certain other requirements, and I talked as recently as today to the engineer at Water and Sewer, who I think I had alluded to in the past, but I'm certain would once again submit a letter in which they acknowledged that they had met with Gio Federo, who's with me, who's the engineer, and that they were satisfied at Water and Sewer with respect to the need to satisfy the requirements of stormwater management. I think we sent by email, and I hope all of you have the opportunity to see what is Gio's most recent filing. And this has evolved over a period of time. We brought a hard copy with us. Usually, there is an easel. I just don't know whether we can put that up on the easel without a backboard to it. But for people to view, let me suggest that I'll go get the easel. I'll go play the supporting actor. This is Gio, who's certainly more knowledgeable than I with respect to the intricacies of the engineering, which I think ultimately, as I say, satisfied Water and Sewer, satisfied the peer review engineer, and we hope will satisfy you. So Gio, you can refer to your plan. I'll go get the easel so people can see.
So Giovanni Federa with Federa Engineering. So with the peer review that was done months ago, the biggest concern that Jim Reardon, Weston, and Sampson had was that they didn't see that it was feasible for groundwater recharge just due to the ledge that's on site. It's a site that's fully comprised of ledge, and in certain areas it ranges from straight on the surface to 18 inches deep to about 80 inches deep in certain areas, you know? But at the end of the day, it's a site fully comprised of ledge. And not being able to meet, and we couldn't really meet the recharge, so we decided to have a system, waive standard 3 for recharge, and we designed a system that would capture all stormwater, and it would fill up. It's a large underground system that has a high volume. It fills up and it slowly exfiltrates. It leaves through smaller pipes and larger pipes at certain elevations. So it controls the peak rate of runoff. The peak rate of runoff is still reduced from the existing conditions. The only thing that is being waived is standard 3, which is recharge. And
Mr. Federo, that is not a given that standard is being waived. That's a decision to be made by the commission as to whether we feel that it's justifiable to grant that waiver.
now the stormwater handbook, it does say in the checklist that it can be waived if the site is
Says
C and
exactly,
D.
can be waived
C and D.
if the site is solely C and D, and that's.
And then it
the
says
problem.
or comprised of ledge. Fully comprised of ledge. It says or, it's not and. It's and or. So the site
Well,
can be
I
C and
won't
D.
argue that because I didn't bring, but the point of the matter is that it says the site is solely composed of
Yes.
C and D, and I believe the documents that you have submitted include a map that shows a good portion of the site as soil type B.
So there's portions of the site that are B, there's portions of the site that are C, and there's portions of the site that are D. But at the end of the day, the site is fully comprised of ledge. Now, the stormwater handbook, it does actually say that it can be full, C or D soils and or
solely.
ledge.
Solely C and D.
And or ledge. So the site is fully comprised of bedrock. I mean, you got to think about this realistically, though. How is it gonna infiltrate if there's ledge on site? It's just it's common sense. If there's ledge on site and you have stormwater going to a
That's
large
exactly the
system,
point. That's
and
something
there's
that has
ledge
to be
under,
addressed by the engineering design, so that when you have a site classified, this is a matter that's gone on since the beginning of this proposal. And both Mr. Reardon and the original engineer,
Thadberry,
thank you, Thadberry, were adamant, proposing that the whole site was classified as B. They were adamant.
And there was further study done, and I found, as I did the study, it's comprised of D, C, and B. So it's it ranges. Now, that's classified based on the volume of soil that's above the ledge. So depending on the
And
depth
the
of
volume
soil,
of, go ahead, I'm sorry.
depending on the depth of soil above ledge, that either classifies it as a C or a B or a D, So in certain areas, there's 80 inches of soil above the ledge. In certain areas, there's 18 inches. And then in certain areas, there's ledge right on the surface. So, to really classify the entire site as one specific soil type, it
I
ranges.
agree with you about that point,
But
however.
you can also all agree that ledge is comprised throughout the entire site, right?
No, I wouldn't,
How-
I wouldn't agree.
Every single test pit showed ledge at,
There were
every
there were a
test
number of test pits which you didn't include in your formula.
it is actually it's included in the report.
The new, they are now, apparently.
The new
But
report,
some of those test pits went as deep as 80 inches.
yes, yeah,
There's a page, I think, that has this.
yeah. But it's in the report.
Huh?
It's in the report, and it shows all the areas that has ledge at each test pit. The report has the map of each test pit location.
There's a plan here that shows it.
Yeah, and it's in there too, so, yeah,
I think it's got the test pits on the top.
yeah.
And you could point to that.
And just as while you're looking for that, I'd just like to make comments. The impact of the soil type
It's actually probably
greatly
better to do it
affects
here.
post-development runoff.
I understand.
If the soils are different categories, then the
I'd rather
runoff
just
is
show them right
affected,
here.
and the design of the drainage system is affected.
We
and
can,
that's what the issue is.
Mhm.
I don't know, Paul, if
I understand.
you want to propose what we had proposed.
I mean, even more so though, Mike, than the soil type, just how shallow that ledge is going to impact it even more. There's just not a lot of material for the stuff to infiltrate into, which is, I believe, the point that Mr. Federa is making.
You're right, Jeremy. That's why, again, this has been protracted, and I have two questions that I'd like to go back to concerning what we have before us right now. But that's one reason I would like to go along. I believe Paul was the one that proposed it under the prior proposal, and that is a site visit for the new members, and particularly to look at the areas where the drainage is located. And I will tell you, this has been so protracted, I agree 100%. I would like to see us move this forward, but not without feeling very comfortable that what's proposed is being properly addressed. So that would be mine. And to get back to my two questions, I'm not really sure about this. I did look at the notice of intent application. What's before us right now, does that include the houses, or is it strictly the subdivision?
It's, the house, yeah, the house roof runoff.
That's a change in the proposal, so.
So roof
it does
runoff
include-
will be captured in, direct.
Originally, there were going to be 6 separate, I believe it was 6 separate notices of intent filed. So the new notice of intent includes the 6, whatever houses are.
It does.
Within the, okay.
Yes.
That was just a question. And the other question I had concerned the, I know. you-
Mike, can I interrupt? I didn't follow you on your 6 houses. What 6 houses are you talking
Originally,
about?
I'm not really sure of the reason, but the proponent had chosen to just apply for the subdivision work itself and then have 6, I believe it was 6 separate applications for each house that was jurisdictional. They have combined, though, which to me made sense.
There's
that
one
we
lot
now
that's
have.
got an existing house. There's 8 lots, so it's 9 lots.
It's 9 lots altogether, but I'm
But
not
this-
sure where,
The 6 lots are the ones that are in
Jurisdiction.
jurisdiction, and those fees have been paid for the 6 lots. So
yeah, but are we, that's kind of my question. Are we ruling right now on the subdivision and the 6 lots? Or are
Yes.
those coming in
Yes.
separate? That's what I thought.
it's
but
all
I
within
wanted-
this
all
one
in the,
application.
All right, I wanted to be sure. And the second thing was concerning the filing fee under the local bylaw. Has a new filing fee been paid under the local bylaw? I was going to make a motion, and I don't know if it's about waiving that, because I honestly feel
I think
that-
they said they couldn't waive it.
Well, they couldn't waive the
They
state.
DEP couldn't waive it.
Yeah.
This board
They told us they
didn't
couldn't
waive
waive
it, and
Oh,
if it's the wish.
all right.
So we paid it. I mean,
If you're willing to waive it,
it's like $4,000.
I have a
The
copy
local-
of it in my folder.
Well,
check-
I mean,
the check
I'll
is
make the
in
motion to
Jamie's-
waive it with the approval of the city solicitor's office, because I truly believe you did pay.
Is that to say that some of the fees are coming to the,
I have copies.
Commission.
Yes, we have. under
you
the
wanna
local
waive that
bylaw, they
portion.
have
You wanna-
filing- We're not waiving the state
Okay.
filing fees, but under the local filing fees, they really did pay those fees
Okay.
previously, and the fact.
I would
that
ag- I would
we
agree.
were
I
unable
would agree,
to
yeah,
have
yeah.
And ask you.
members
Oh, all right.
present for whatever reason.
I would second that motion, Mike.
And pending approval by city solicitor's office. So that's my two things about that.
okay. I have a number of questions that I need to ask, so if anybody, do you have any more, Mike?
No, my only point is to add on to what you had said at the last meeting, and I really think for the new members, a site visit would be appropriate with the second part, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Paul, but I really think we should hire a consultant to strictly And this is to make recommendations that we can move this thing forward.
How many
Agreed.
consultants?
2 years.
Because it's gone through Weston and Sampson, it's gone through the initial engineer, it's gone through myself. I mean,
Now, my opinion
I
on the
feel
waiver
very
is, I
comfortable.
don't feel that
I
we
feel-
have the authority to waive what I view as a direct requirement under the Wetlands Protection Act, when the material before us clearly presents that part of the site has soil type B, and it, I mean, that's the way I read it, solely C and D.
but if you look at the checklist does say solely C and D and/or comprised of bedrock. You need to really think about like the common
But the
sense
whole-
about
that's my
this.
whole point, the whole
If you have a-
the whole
if you
site
have-
isn't composed of
If
bedrock.
you have a lot
That's
of
why we need a site
stormwater-
visit.
If you have
That's-
a lot of
I'm
stormwater
just
going
gonna-
to an
The
area,
checklist is the checklist, it speaks for itself.
You have a
Whatever it
s-
is, it is. We read it one way, you may read it another.
if you have a lot of stormwater going to an area and it's sitting above ledge, how is that gonna infiltrate?
Well, that was the beginning of the whole thing that we had from the start of, how could you propose a recharge system, an infiltration system
Over ledge.
on that site?
And you cannot.
when-
That's why
when-
it's.
Well,
being
let's go back to
waived.
that whether you say the site was all ledge or not, the areas where the infiltration was proposed were all ledge and were unsuitable. And that's the only statement Mr. Reardon has made that I know of, is that the sites of the proposed drainage facilities, the improvement, BMPs basically, were not suitable for the proposed drainage system. And that's what
There,
members of the commission had been saying from the start.
there were 11 test pits on site and every test pit showed ledge.
One of
So
them is
if we
down
were
to
go-
80 inches.
I mean, we can dig up the entire site. Why not, right? But why would we want to do that?
Let me
I mean,
ask,
out of 11 test pits.
let me ask
all
a
ledge,
question.
then-
Let me ask you a question. And Mike, this might address your concern. Did your calculations include the benefits of B-type soil?
The calculations. So are you talking about the?
So let me ask it slightly differently. Did you take credit for B-type soil
Yes,
in your calculations?
yes,
And I think that's the issue.
yeah.
That's the issue.
Again, I think that's why we need to have a site visit.
So if you
check out
didn't,
the
if you
location.
didn't take, let me just play that thought out. If you didn't take credit for B-type soil, you took, you were constrained by C and D-type soils, yeah? Your runoff calculations would be different.
Yes,
In your waiver would probably be granted no contest. But I think where Mike is hanging his hat is that the waiver is solely C and D, and you have taken credit for B-type soil in your calculations.
yes.
I think that's the issue.
But, we're talking about recharge onto the site, recharge back into the ground, stormwater recharge, so, you're saying,
Paul's point,
I know your position, and I agree with your position. However, Mike's point about the waiver being solely C and D, that has to be run to ground.
that needs-
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you, right? But if you took credit for B-type soil, there's an issue, there's a rub. It's gotta be, I don't know.
again, not to put words in anybody on the commissions, that's where a review by, and I think we had agreed possibly Mr. McAllister, on the calculations and the credits and what can be done. I am the first one to say that I don't fully get the idea of why the detention basins that are proposed appear to only have capacity for the 25-year storm. And to me, they should have capacity for a 100-year storm. But if we get an engineer that says that's not the case, Mr. Reardon has not commented on the redesign before this commission. As a matter of fact, the last time, he was supposed to get back to us on 2 separate issues, and he never came back.
I'd like to correct you, though, the stormwater systems are designed to fully control the 100-year storm.
Well, they don't have the capacity to hold the 100-year storm based on your elevation.
No, they do.
The 25-year storm is 2 inches below the inlet, I should say.
No, that's incorrect. The 100-year storm is fully contained within each system. 100%. The top of the system,
Again,
the inside system is up here. The 100-year storm is below it, so that it's fully contained within the system. And that's
can you, all
considering
right, can
zero
you just
exfiltration.
comment from the plan?
That's
because
considering
I didn't
zero
get a copy
exfiltration.
of
Now,
it.
we gotta take into consideration that these systems, they are open to the open ground. So if there's sand on the open ground, it is open to that. So if it does, for any reason, does infiltrate back into the ground, that's great. That infiltration is not taken within our calculations. So if anything, the entire 100-year storm is fully contained. I wouldn't put my stamp on it if I designed it and that wasn't working for the 100-year storm.
Now, if you can look at either one of the two BMPs and read where it comments the elevation of the 25-year storm is.
25-year storm needs to be at or below, no, so the inlet going into the system needs to be at or above the 25-year storm.
And it's at or above it by maybe 2 inches,
That's fine. That's fine.
then
The bylaw
a
says,
100-year storm,
the bylaw says that the
where's the
25-year
capacity
storm,
remaining for
so
the
the
100-year
inlet
storm?
pipe coming into the
This has been
system.
one of my questions right from the beginning of the design, and I haven't had an explanation that at least clears it up in my
All
head.
right, what's the question?
Well, if you look at the plans,
Yes,
pick out one of the two BMPs,
yeah,
and on the side cutout,
yeah.
cross view, I guess we'd call it,
Mhm.
it shows an elevation for the 25-year storm.
Yes.
And
Let me
that
pull it up.
elevation is maybe, on one of them, I believe, maybe an inch below the inlet. So if that's the elevation of the 25-year storm, then it stands to reason to me that the 100-year storm is going to fill it up to more than capacity, and you
Oh,
won't be able
no,
to
no,
handle.
no, no. So, I'd like to clarify this. It is
Now,
page,
this is, good.
I'd like to clarify this, because it's just, I understand what you're trying to say, but I think you're misinterpreting.
It may very well be,
correctly.
but that's a point that I'd like to have another engineer clarify.
So, I designed this that, probably would have been easier to have the small cells.
What sheet are you looking at?
I'm looking at sheet C6.
C6? And what BMP you want to look at?
So we have, let's see. Okay, so looking at BMP 1,
Okay.
so there's a call right here on BMP, for BMP 1, right? So BMP 1, storm trap, ST2, double trap. And within that note, it has 25-year elevation equal to 192.96.
I see it.
So at the 25-year storm, that system, stormwater will be up to that elevation, 192.96. Now, the inlet pipe coming into that system needs to be at or above that elevation, just to make sure that the 25-year storm is fully covered with the inlet. Now, the inlet coming into that system, it's at 193.9, which is a full foot above the 25-year elevation.
Where'd you get the elevation of the inlet pipe?
It's right here.
I see it, 192.5.
Yeah.
Yep.
'Cause, yeah, I mean, that is we see the inlet coming in right here, and the outlet's leaving right here. Also note that the roof drains, the roof leaders are also at or above the 25-year elevation. The pipes that are leaving that system, they can be at any elevation. Those are not controlled because stormwater's leaving. So it starts, the first one leaving that system is actually right at the bottom. It's a small pipe, so it's controlled. And as it starts to fill up, there's another pipe that at a certain elevation starts to run out a little bit quicker, still controlling the peak rate of runoff. And then there's another pipe, yes, and there's a detail right there. Those are the outlet pipes. Yes.
Is there a note on that? These notes.
No. I didn't see any space. Reading glasses, I didn't bring them. This won't help at all.
Yeah, and I have 200 pages of calculations that can show the 100-year storm. And I'm happy to walk them through that.
I think they might, Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's go to, EMP1, right? 100-year storm.
Sure, I'm not page.
And to show proof in the calculations that the 100-year storm is contained.
In 193.
I think also,
Right.
Less than an inch. That's right.
peak elevation, right here, EMP1, in the calculations. The peak elevation of stormwater filled within that system goes up to 194.8. The top of that system, EMP1, is 195.25. The 100-year storm was at 194.8. The top of the system is 195.25, so we have a good
So you have,
8 inches.
What's the 25-year on that?
25-year storm is 192.96.
so what you're saying, Gio, is that you have excess capacity beyond the 100-year storm?
Yes.
Not beyond the 100-year storm, beyond the 25-year storm.
Beyond the 100-year storm as well.
That's what I heard.
Calculations right here.
What was the first number you said of the
25 year.
195?
So the top of the system for BMP1 inside is 195.25, and you can see that on sheet C6.
So
You look
where
at-
does the 8 inches come from? that you said?
So right here.
Right.
I did every one of them. And I have a lot of questions.
What page are you on?
So they're not numbered, but if you go into,
At the top,
it says 24 100 a year.
57, I think it says.
Oh, it's page 87.
Okay, I was right.
Of the calculations. So right here. Peak elevation, 194.8, and that's the 100-year storm, so that's on page 87 of the stormwater calculations.
I still don't get the 8 inches of,
All right, well, I did 0.25.
Because the total thing is 195, and then 195.25, and the 100-year storm is measured at 194.4. So there's 8 inches.
So to answer your question that the 100-year storm is not contained, I just showed proof right there that it is.
That's shown in this one.
Yes.
Mike, you okay with that?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
What's that?
I'm not sure.
Not sure yet?
If you want to go through BMP too as well, I'm more than happy to.
You want to start with some of your questions?
I wanted to give Mike time that he needs. If he's okay with me going forward, I will.
Oh, yeah, no, you go forward.
You good?
Sure. No,
Okay. So,
I still have questions about the 100-year storm, but
okay, I have a few questions.
Sure.
I'd like to go back to the February 15th meeting, the first meeting of the new members. Just to put things in perspective, especially for the public. We met on the 15th, 11 days later on the 26th, I received the hard copy of your documents. So 11 days later, on February 26th, 214-page document and 13 engineering drawings, okay? And I just want to let you know that I spent upwards of 40 hours, 40 man-hours, going from drawing to calculation sheet and checking your work. Now granted, a lot of it was done with the software, but still. Then, 21 days later, on March 8th, coming ready for the March 15th meeting, we received 3 electronic files. The 214-page document went to 227 pages, and the 13 engineering drawings stayed the same. That's when you added some new stuff on March 8th.
Yeah.
My advice to you is when you do that again, if you ever do it, you know the insert pages that you changed. It took me 2 hours to figure out what you changed in those additional pages. If my grandson wasn't vying for my attention, it would have taken me an hour. But it took me 2 hours because he was vying for my attention. Just a point of advice for you in the future, when a large document is changed like that, and we're already studying the first one, give us a break and tell us what changed in the second one. So 7 days to March 15th, and then we got stonewalled, if you will, by the legalities of the quorum and such that I was ready to discuss this on March 15th. I really turned it over to try to move this forward. So I have a number of questions. The refiling that you guys just did, you refiled from December 21st of 2021. Is that true? Because if you did, I would like minutes of the 12/21 meeting and the January 18th meeting. So depending on your refiling point, we had talked in the March 15th meeting about refiling back to December of 2021.
We don't meet in December. We didn't meet in December.
no,
Okay.
we don't meet.
So why we said that, I don't know, but I just wanted the minutes that I missed, which would be the January 18th meeting, if there's minutes that I need to look at that I didn't receive yet.
So I thought that I provided them all with the minutes, but,
So let me say it this way, please. If we met on December 21st, 2021,
Yep, we did not.
and if we met on January 18th of 2022, I would like a copy of those minutes.
I don't know if we did.
And if we didn't,
think in
I don't
that
care.
meeting, there wasn't a quorum, wasn't that the issue?
Yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
There's no quorum.
So there was.
Okay.
So you couldn't do any business.
good, perfect.
That meeting.
So we're fully up to speed, 100% from the February 15th meeting on.
Yes.
Good. Okay, questions for you, Gio? The test pits, you originally showed 7, and then you added the 4 other test pits. I just want to talk and say, it looks like you did not include the additional 4 test pits data in your calculations. You did not change your calculations, which were based on the 7 test pits. You simply added the fact that we had 4 more test pits, but you didn't use the data in the calculations.
That was previously when I didn't have
Okay.
that data.
But when you had the 4 test pits, which you gave to us on March 8th, did you add those 4 sets of data into the calculations? Or did you stay with the 7 test pits?
I did not show those calculations just because I wanted to really
Okay.
show how diverse the site was.
Right.
With, being B, C, D, so it's very all over the place.
And for my commission colleagues, I don't think the 4 additional test pits datas would change the calculations much, because they're very similar to the original 7 that you used. However, I just wanted to point that out to my colleagues, that those 4 sets of data were not included, even though they were added to the package, they were not included in the calculations.
The one thing I would say is when you did put those 4 test pits into the formula that Geo provided, it changed the depth of bedrock from below 40 to above 40. And that's a key factor in attempting to apply for the waiver. That was what Geo was supporting, was that fact. And the fact is, when you include the 4 test pits that were done by Weston and Sampson, they averaged out to depth of bedrock of around 46 plus. And then when you combine that with the 7, the average comes out to over 40 inches. And 40 inches is a key factor as to the determination of the soil type in those particular areas. I don't know, how it would necessarily impact the determination of the site, but we don't even have to determine that because Mr. Federa has submitted a map that shows that there are soil types B on the site. As a matter of fact, I think it's close to 40%, if I'm not mistaken, but I wouldn't want to be quoted on that.
So I'm gonna move on. I just wanted to ask and have you confirm that you did not use those 4 sets of data in your calculations?
Yes.
At least yet? Okay.
And
Go ahead.
the reason why was because I wanted to really just show the map and how there is some B soils, there's some C soils, there's some D soils. So
Right.
just to kind of show that
Right.
we can't, it's hard to really say that a site is fully comprised of one full soil type. That's hard to tell.
In my opinion, and granted, I'm new at this, my opinion was that those 4 sets of data wouldn't make much of a difference, but to Mike Toomey's point, it does, because the 4 sets of data were very similar to the original 7. It's like so, but it moves a marker.
40 is a key number.
Yeah.
40 is a key number, so, and it sounds like, if I hear you right, Mike, you're saying it's to their benefit to include the 11 because it'll be stronger to get their waiver,
No, it's the other way around.
the other way around.
But-
Because it's the depth of bedrock, so
Right.
if there's greater bedrock, the soil type, in order to classify as type C or D, correct me if I'm wrong about that, you have to be, have a depth of bedrock less than 40.
Okay, so that
But
needs,
to qualify for the waiver possibly, and maybe I think that was.
So then another thing I was saying, that calculation, It's kind of weird because I could have 20 test pits in a certain area that have 12 inches of soil right below bedrock, and then one test pit area that's, 80 inches, and then the calculations get skewed. So it's really dependent on the locations of those test pits. So that's why I said, you know what? We could just really look at the site as a whole and say which areas do have B, which areas do have C, which areas do have D. It's more accurate, I would say, rather than just getting the average from test pits.
Why were those 4 test pits left out?
I didn't have that data at the time.
Mr. Federa, I tend to disagree with that. There were communications between you and Mr. Reardon that were submitted to Jamie Cerulli that indicate you requested information about those 4 test pits directly from Mr. Reardon, and the email back from him indicated that he would send you those along with a number of other documents.
I did receive that information afterwards.
These were dated well before. Well before.
May I continue?
I'm sorry.
In the interest of time, I don't want to step on anything with my questions. On engineering sheets 2 and 12, the 15-inch drain pipe going down Judge Road, reinforced concrete drain pipe, there's a note on sheet 2 and sheet 12 that says appears to be blocked. Can you comment on that? Sheet 2 and sheet 12.
So
The
it's-
15-inch
the note is
RCP.
on- All right.
And what,
Does the note say that it appears to be blocked?
right on Judge Road, look at the 15-inch reinforced concrete pipe coming down Judge Road. It's existing, right in the middle of the street. There's a note that says appears to be blocked. Pretty much right where Linzillo Lane will come into Judge Road. I'm just looking for your comment on that, and then I have other questions. If you have no comment, that's fine. Might be a carryover from the previous engineer.
The existing conditions plan was done by another consultant.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sheet 11, engineering sheet 11 is illegible. I couldn't zoom in on the e-copy on a PDF reader, so just a note, I think sheet 11 is the storm trap details from the manufacturers. It wasn't too important to me, but it was illegible, so I think every engineering sheet submitted should be legible.
I believe these documents, let's take a look. I can get you a copy of those. It's an 8.5 by 11 packet.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it didn't scan right, or maybe but okay.
I can totally.
I'd appreciate that, not urgent at all.
Okay.
Okay, but thank you. Next question. On sheet 11 still, they refer to sheet numbers. I don't know what those sheet numbers refer to. I believe they're sheet numbers to the manufacturer's engineering drawings, not to these drawings.
Yes. So sheet 11 is comprised of the packet from the manufacturer, and the packet was 8.5 by 11 sheets.
Okay.
And I just
Okay,
put them into CAD, so.
that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. Next question, sheet 13. Erosion Control Note 8, or Note B. Sheet 13, Erosion Control Note B, says to see Note 18. I can't find Note 18 anywhere. Sheet 13, Erosion Control, Note B. Let me know when you see it. It says to see Note 18. Cannot find Note 18 anywhere. So if you can make a note of that and take it as an action item, I'll move on. Yep. Gio, okay? Sheet 12, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, Note 11. Twice mentions North Reading Conservation Commission. Why do these engineering drawings refer to North Reading and not to Lynn?
That is a typo.
Is it a carryover, maybe, of those notes from a previous? It looked like a carryover. I just wanted to be sure. Sheet 12, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, Note 11. You see it? Okay, so that needs to be addressed. Just wanted to make sure there's nothing I'm missing, right? Has a contractor been identified yet for this plan?
Not yet.
Okay. Because I have another question. Are there qualified and experienced building this close to wetlands with these many design challenges? And what I mean by that is that looking at the design that you put together and others, I think it's very delicate. It has to be built correctly to work. The elevations are very close to each other. Those pipes have to be pitched correctly. And there's inches between elevations. Matter of fact, your tolerance was 0.1 of a foot. And otherwise call you if the elevations are not true. 0.1 of a foot is 1.4 inches. That's how exact this has to be to work. So I'm wondering, do we have contractors that can build this? And that's why I asked if a contractor's been, whoever does get it, if it ever gets approved and finally done, the onus is on everyone involved to do it correctly because it has to be done, it has to be built right. It's so delicate. I'm going to skip a few questions in the interest of time. A lot of these questions I actually got answered as I got into the sheets. Okay, just bear with me. Minor things, Geo, like sheets 4 and sheets 5 legend shows utility poles and overhead utility wires. Those are not applicable here because you're putting everything underground. So, you know, sheet 4 and sheet 5 legend, utility poles and overhead utility wires, not applicable here. Here's a question I would like answered. Throughout the documents, you refer to one of the BMPs as BMP 3A. What, and I couldn't find it. It was almost like it was elusive. Which one is BMP 3A?
BMP 3A is the, as you drive into Lanzillo Lane, it's kind of like a detention ponds type of thing.
Is that the one running over riprap between two manholes?
I'm looking at sheet,
Where Lanzillo Lane bends to the right?
yes,
And it's on the outside corner, if you will?
yes.
It kind of like It's almost like an overflow drain for the wetland pond.
Yeah, and the, yes,
Okay,
some of the wetlands and the root
okay,
runoff.
okay.
Yeah.
Just a few more. Sheet 2 has an old well listed on it. And it actually has a delineation of where it's located. It's actually located behind, is it number 32 Judge Road?
Yes.
Can you comment on that old well? What would an old well be doing on a plot that has ledge? Well, and if it is a real old well, does it have to be closed down properly?
That is a good question, and I can,
Okay. Why don't you take that as an action, because we got to move on. All right? One last question for you, Gio, is what type of entry does the 12-inch pipe draining the wetland pond have? Meaning, there's a 12-inch pipe going from the wetland pond down through an easement on Upper Judge Road into the street drain on Judge Road. And it basically drains the pond. You follow me? You'll see it on some of the sheets. I don't know what sheet number it's on. But what I'm interested in is, and if you don't know, that's fine, you can just find out for me. Up at the pond, what kind of entrance? Is it a graded steel? Is it screened? Is it, what kind of entrance does that 12-inch pipe have that drains the pond into the Judge Road street drain, existing?
I see, the existing,
Yeah, it's existing.
Yep. That, so, an outside consultant did do the survey, so my field crew was not out there at the time.
Okay.
So I cannot,
Okay, take that as an action.
yeah.
I have a number of questions about the interface to the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission system on Judge Road. This design for the 4 acres, 4+ acres, has basically concentrated the outflow so that the majority of the water is going to be coming down Lanzillo Lane eventually, throughout all at BMPs and storm traps and such. But there's a 15-inch pipe in the new development. It's going to be a new pipe that basically drains the majority of these 4 acres eventually, okay? It's 70 feet long and it's coming down Lanzillo Lane. And you tie that 15-inch pipe, basically tying in the whole division, or most of the division, into the existing drain and Judge Road. Now, granted, I know you've submitted to us a letter from the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission that basically says, and it's one of their engineers, that says they will work with you as the program develops, that to Attorney Vitale's statement earlier, they basically agree with the design, and the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission engineer says, I will continue to work with you guys as you develop for the interface to the existing drain system on Judge Road. I have a huge concern, and I'll say it this way, it's a showstopper, because that drain pipe on Judge Road is inadequate by itself, existing inadequate. And for you to tie in another 15-inch pipe draining pretty much the entire, or almost the entire 4 acres of that plot, those 2 plots, even though your design is pretty neat, I think it'll work, but you're going to cause increased flooding to Judge Road by draining that 15-inch pipe into the existing pipe.
So the flooding really only occurs during the peak rate of runoff, and the peak rate of runoff has reduced from the post-construction.
Take out the word only. Flooding only occurs? Take out the word only, and you'll have flooding occurs. Am I right? In our bylaws, in the first paragraph under purpose, says you cannot cause flooding.
All right, so flooding occurs mostly when at the peak rate of runoff, but the peak rate of runoff has been reduced in the post-construction conditions.
Right, but I fear, and this is why I would like my colleagues to support me on this. I would like to make a motion to have a Lynn Water and Sewer engineer tell us that your design, your outflows, whatever you want to call it, will not cause increased flooding on Judge Road.
When I was in the meeting with them, they did actually mention that, and they were okay with it. And we can get it in writing.
I would like, I want to ask questions. I have proposals. Why don't we run another 15-inch pipe down the bottom of Judge Road, dedicated to the Lanzillo Lane development, and so it drains nice and, no problem at all.
So just to let you know,
Let-
we can also use a 12-inch pipe as well. For that, I know you might be a little scared that it's a 15-inch pipe, but we can also use a 12-inch pipe as well.
No.
It
I'm not,
has enough
the
capacity.
15-inch doesn't scare me. As a matter of fact, that's a good segue into my second proposal. Maybe from the manhole on Judge Road where you tie into, Lynn Water and Sewer Commission puts a 24-inch pipe further down Judge Road so that it can handle both the new development and the existing catch basins on Judge Road. And then they can address appears to be blocked issue on the existing pipe. So maybe it's a bigger pipe going down Judge Road, to handle both, if you will, and fix the appeared blockage. And lastly, and I'm sure this is going to be not even considered, you might redesign the system to exit the development through the northern abutters on Bridle Path Lane, and don't bother Judge Road with the drain off. I mean, that's going to be a redesign that'd probably be cost prohibitive. But there's a number of things that I would like considered, and I'd like a Lynn Water and Sewer engineer to come and tell us, so we can ask questions to him or her, tell us how this project is not going to cause increased flooding on Judge Road.
So I agree, what your concerns are, but you're going to remember that this is the Conservation Commission, and we need to stick within the jurisdiction of what the Conservation Commission,
Gio, I thought the same thing. And you know how I got grounded on my issue? The first paragraph in our bylaws, under purpose. You can't cause flooding. It's right in the bylaws. So am I out of my jurisdiction as a Conservation Commission person? I don't think so. This, to me, is a showstopper until it's addressed. Or we're convinced, and the abutters are convinced, if there's any abutters here, I'd like to have them speak, that, yep, that's a beautiful design for 8 new houses. It's going to work, and it's not going to cause flooding. As a matter of fact, when I first studied your design, I thought the abutters on Judge Road are going to benefit because you're going to capture most of the runoff in your systems. So the runoff that's currently going downhill into their backyards, maybe into their basements, might be slowed down or if not eliminated by your design. But the output pipe, I'm worried now about the downhill people on Judge Road that floods on a good day now. And I've heard stories where at the bottom of Judge Road, guy had to put sandbags down there to block the flow of water. And I also heard from someone that the flooding gets so bad, it floods Martin Road, which is basically down around the corner, not connected. So I need to be comfortable. I really want this project to succeed, but I need to be comfortable that it's not going to cause increased flooding on Judge Road. So my motion, I make a motion and I ask someone to second it and support me on this. I'd like to have someone from the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission here to tell us how flooding is not going to be a problem on Judge Road.
Well, I'd like to
Forgive me, Gio, the peak discharge or the peak rate that we're talking about, is that the peak rate that you're decreasing into on Judge Road existing? The peak rate through that is decreasing? I'm just,
Can you repeat that one more time?
sorry, earlier before, you said that the peak rate was decreasing, and I'm just asking the peak rate, peak flow rate of what? Into the, are you decreasing the amount of water coming into the pipe on Judge Road, or are we increasing the,
So the peak
From
rate
the
of
subdivision.
runoff is decreased, and the, let's see, the peak rate, yeah, so it is decreased in every storm scenario. So instead of water coming, quickly, it's gradually being discharged. So it's more controlled, much more controlled.
It's controlled, but the volume's
right,
going to
so
stay the
that's
same.
the point that I'm trying to, right, but the thing is, there's gonna be water moving through the system slowly, so the system isn't gonna be being hit as hard during a storm event, which is the point that I'm trying to get at.
That is correct. And that's what the subsurface stormwater systems are for, it's a holding tank to slowly discharge and just control the stormwater so that it's not a huge influx of water coming all at once.
And I understand that, if I could
No,
interject. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I do understand that. I've worked with those systems quite a bit, actually, through my own work. So I was just more trying to get at that I understand what you're accomplishing here, and I was trying to get through to my other, my colleagues on the board that the thing is, this project isn't gonna be adding to stress on Judge Road. Really, after this project's completed, it as, if the peak rate's being decreased, then it's gonna be taking away from some of the issues on Judge Road, not adding to it.
Paul, if I may, Jeremy, if I may comment on your Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, we have never been able to have Lynn Water and Sewer Commission come out and basically do anything other than send a letter, because the interests of Lynn Water and Sewer Commission are much different than the interests that we're designed to support, the 8 interests under the Act. So the viewpoint might be entirely different from the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, but they're not going to come out at our request and present before us, or at least they never have, let me put it that way, and it has been requested in the past, but they basically stand clear. And what we do have the authority, and you had actually suggested it at the November or January, no, it couldn't have been January, must have been the November meeting, were you here? One of the meetings, we talked about hiring a consultant. It must have been the January meeting, and then
February.
we found out we
February.
couldn't.
February
I-
or March.
I didn't,
One of
I
those
think it was
meetings.
in the minutes of.
I was only at
that's
2
why-
other meetings.
Why I wasn't sure, but anyhow, we have the authority to hire a consultant to specifically review the drainage figures, the drainage design, and that would take a vote of the commission.
Well,
And it would be a wetlands engineer as well, that, not a Lynn Water and Sewer Commission engineer.
I appreciate that. I appreciate Jeremy's position. But let me tell you where I'm coming from. The 2 houses that are up on Quinn Road, that you want to put on Quinn Road, that storm system basically drains into the pond
Correct.
eventually.
Yes.
the 6 new houses that you want to put in on Linzella Lane. They're all tied together. And as I studied this, Gio, I admired the design until I got to the end. And I basically said, and I'll restate it, I've said it already tonight, the majority of that 4 acres now drains through that pipe on either the 12-inch drain pipe that's draining the pond, runs into Judge Road drain pipe, already does, and it's gonna carry more water. The 15-inch drain pipe coming down Linzilla Lane is gonna carry the rest of the water. Now, you can talk about a rate. A rate is a volume versus time. I'm talking about total volume. Whether it's the 12-inch pipe coming from the pond or the brand-new 15-inch pipe coming down, the volume is what I believe is going to cause flooding. I think that this commission, and maybe I'm wrong, we have a duty to not only try to support the applicants and get their stuff built, but also to the neighbors, the abutters, on Judge Road. And until I'm comfortable that this beautiful system, right, is not going to cause additional flooding, I cannot approve it. And I hope my colleagues on the commission agree with me. That's how serious I think this is. It's an in-betweener. And we can say, nope, it's not us. Well, I think it is us. I think it is us. Don't want to cause increased flooding. And I hope we get the existing flooding on Judge Road fixed. But that's not my intent. My intent is to make sure this new plot that I'm pretty much ready to approve. Gio, I want you to hear that. I'm pretty much ready to approve it, but I need to be comfortable you're not going to cause increased flooding on Judge Road.
The peak rate of runoff, it definitely controls the stormwater to be more gradual, so it is actually making it it's an improvement from the existing conditions.
And let me address that point, because I totally get what you're saying. I thought about it. But I want you to picture this. I want you to picture that 25, 50-year, or 100-year storm, full throttle.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the business I was in for 40 years. When you're running a design full throttle, everything's in play, okay? Your storm system is running at peak volume, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Peak volume causing increased flooding on Judge Road.
So we do have the calculations here, and so we can kind of go through them. Let's go to BMP1, for example. BMP1 is, so, here's the graph. So you can see, and this is on page 89 of the calculations, the stormwater calculations.
Okay?
So that 4.54 CFS, that's the peak rate of runoff coming into the system.
Cubic feet per second?
Yes. And the 1.69 cubic feet per second is outflow from the system. So inflow, outflow. The inflow is much higher than the outflow. And you can clearly see that it's a huge control of that system, and that's from the system. And when you look at the existing conditions on page, let's see. So pre-development conditions, you're looking at so DP1. bear with me.
That's all right. While you're looking that up, I just want to say that I'm not challenging your numbers or your rates.
Yeah.
I think I understand them, but I may not understand them correctly. So if you, I don't think it's going to be you, but if you can convince me there's not going to be increased flooding on Judge Road, fine. I don't think you're gonna. That existing drain pipe on Judge Road, which is owned by Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, I think those people need to tell me.
So I'm just running through the calculations and I can prove it to you. I just, I'm finding the numbers.
You can prove what to me?
That it will not increase flooding. It will actually help. I know this is taking a long time, but you just bear with me. I'm trying to.
I have a question about the process, because I see we have a butter for this specific proposal.
We do?
Yeah, you do. When, because it's already 8 o'clock, 8:03. When do we?
The question is, we have abutters here from this project?
Would be if we were gonna actually take a vote.
After the,
After we would be done, then we would allow them to do it. But if we're going to table this or we're going to, whatever, we would.
Because I'd love to hear what they have to say before
Mm.
we make a decision.
makes sense to hear from them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible to hear from the abutters at this point?
The chairperson?
It all depends on whether anyone else has any questions at this point of. the
I don't.
proponent.
I just want to reiterate that I have a motion on the floor, and I would like someone to second it eventually, or if it gets tabled, that's fine. But it sounds like a good idea to hear the abutters who've been sitting here.
I agree with that.
We good? Can we call the abutters?
Sure, if you'd like to speak, either
We're
in,
not closing the public hearing.
No, we're
for
gonna
those
leave it
that
open,
are speaking
so-
in favor, so that's still open to address them
Okay.
after the fact.
And if, I think they would have to agree because they need to stand down, if you will, to let the abutters speak. Are you
No,
guys
I-
okay with it?
We can basically open the public hearing to anyone else that
Yeah.
wants to speak and continue the public hearing beyond those speaking in opposition. We're not closing the public hearing as such. And we can entertain a motion to do that, to basically continue the hearing at this point to allow Mr. Federa to research or whatever, and allow the public to speak, whether they're in favor or in opposition.
That's a motion. Second.
Motion?
so if you could just come up to the microphone, because Jeremy needs to hear you. Name, address? I mean, when you get there, sorry.
Hi, good evening.
Jeremy,
Is he not there anymore?
no, he's there, but I'm just saying.
I think he can hear her on the microphone, he just can't see her.
Hmm?
Jeremy, you can hear.
I'm here.
You can hear her, you just can't see her. Is that correct?
Yep, and that's fine. Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. I'm Susan Carroll, and I'm representing my elderly mother on 115 Quinn Road. She would be the abutter, I believe, as the road goes in, the new road. So we've been in opposition of this project since it was first presented pre-COVID. And I just had I want to thank the Conservation Committee. I think that's a great idea to revisit the area with the new members. We would certainly appreciate that as abutters. I just wanted to clarify, in the letter we received, it talks about 9 houses, but this evening we've heard 8. So can we get clarification, is it 8 lots or 9 lots?
It's 8 new lots, and it's 1 existing home. So 8 new houses, 1 existing home. So it's a total of 9 lots.
So total of 9?
Yes.
Okay. And then, I do live on Martin Road, so I can attest to Mr. Guthrow's comments about the flooding that does happen, that comes over to Martin Road, and my mother's home currently does flood during regular storms like last night. We got a big sump pump there, pipes that go out to her driveway. So, again, all the due diligence, again, we're opposed to this project, but all the due diligence that was brought up this evening, a lot of technical, I can't specifically say, I understood, but common sense, terms, as was spoken, this is a very delicate project. If this moves forward and goes wrong, what is in it for the abutters? What happens to us? What happens to our homes? Then the project's done, we can't come here and say we're opposed. We don't get the help we need. So again, opposed, greatly appreciate that, anything that can be done to come out and look at this project again and really think about the neighborhood, think about the current neighbors that have been there for years and what we put up with now. And is this really the right project to move forward? Don't agree that we need 8, in the beautifully wooded area that it is today, and should maintain that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Steve Shepherd, Bridle Path Road. I'm one of the butters up in the north end. So,
Steve, say that again?
I'm Bridle Path Road. I'm one of the butters up in the north end.
Could you just say your last name again?
Shepherd
So you're on Bridle Path Lane?
Road.
Road, okay.
Yeah, Middle Lane Road. Yeah. Honestly, just the only thing that would affect me, it's a nice wooded area up there, and, I had somebody butting my backyard, somebody's backyard butting up against mine. But I will attest that I agree with him as far as on Judge Road. Just in a mild rainstorm for these people here, that floods constantly down at the bottom. You're riding through it, and it only takes a small rainstorm for that thing to. And I've seen rain, just in a mild rainstorm, come running through my backyard. Well, not my backyard, but the property that runs right behind my backyard, all the way down into these people's property down in Judge Road. And all the engineering is, you go by the numbers, you have a great design. But it's only as good as it is until the first shovel hits the ground and something happens and like, oh, we didn't account for that, or we didn't realize that was there, or we didn't realize this was there. So if this design is that tight that he was saying, that and the builders have to be that precise with it, I would almost like to see some kind of buffer built into it, some kind of buffer percentage of, deviance built into it. Because we all know it, when they start to build this thing, they're gonna run into problems, and the elevation's gonna change, something's gonna change, and I think, something that's tight is gonna be really difficult, and then the flooding down there is gonna get worse, I think, in the runoff. So that's all I get to say about it. I mean, it is a nice wooded area. There are deer running back there and turkeys and everything else like that, and everybody'd like to see it stay like that, but, we know it is what it is, so that's all I get to say about it.
Hi, my name's Mary Jean Hallis from Martin Road, and I have a problem too with the flooding from the overflow run down Judge into Martin. It floods the neighbors' yards and the cul-de-sacs. And also, the blasting is gonna be a big issue, because the size of we're feeling the blasting now from the hospital land that they just started doing. If you have to blast, I hope that Martin Road's included in the insurance part, because there's some serious ledge up on Quinn Road that you're gonna have to, that I'm nervous for Sue's mom's house. The whole driveway where it's a rock. I don't know how you're gonna blast that rock without damaging the houses. So,
So I do know that the blasting company, they do send out a letter to all abutters.
Just the butters, not, Martin Road's not in a butter.
I think it's either,
The state fire marshal regulates by,
I understand that, but
and the fire department.
I understand that. You're welcome to come up my house
and they do
tomorrow
a
morning.
bluegrass survey. I'm just saying to you, the Conservation Commission has no control.
I understand that, but I'm just addressing him on the blasting, and you're welcome to come for coffee at 8:20 tomorrow when the blasting occurs. It's not fun to feel your whole house shake that we're feeling now with the hospital land. And the amount of ledge that you have is gonna be worse. So I'm opposed.
Anyone else?
Jody Langella, 46 Judge Road. I'm in a very unfortunate spot, I think, because the last time, a couple years ago when we met, one of the, I forget what they're called, the storm drain catch-alls, whatever they're called, directly behind my house. Sorry. And we asked Reed, was Reed involved? Was that the guy's name, the company? We said, where does the extra go? And he said, well, into your backyard.
I believe Reed was a surveyor, wasn't
So
he?
I don't
it
understand.
was the previous engineer.
And my brother lives right next door to me, so we're absolutely opposed. We're screwed, I think, because of where we are positioned.
So
So,
previously, how it was designed was that the stormwater system, it was behind your house, and it was designed to infiltrate, and then
a big
overflow.
ugly brick wall behind my house?
Yes.
Yes.
How it was designed previously was that it was designed to infiltrate and then overflow. That was actually really bad because
Yeah.
it wasn't going to infiltrate because the bedrock, you know. So
Yeah.
you would have had that would have been a disaster for you. The
Agreed.
way that it's redesigned is that it's completely contained within the underground structure. None of the runoff goes to your yard.
You can
It's
laugh
re-
and say that, but if you live there, would you
No, I'm
Want
telling
it?
you from right now. It's a big concrete chamber. It
Yeah,
goes-
concrete, right in my backyard. So
No, I
visually,
mean,
it's-
it gets covered by grass, topsoil, so it's gonna be yard, lawn.
So what happens during construction when this thing isn't built? Like,
Well, there's erosion control, there's,
what about the runoff and all that? Where's that gonna
no,
go
that's all,
during
that's all
construction?
contained and controlled from erosion control sediment barriers,
Okay,
yeah.
well, I'm opposed, and I know
Well,
my next door
I
neighbor's
think
opposed.
you
and
should be
Happy.
very glad that it's redesigned.
I
because
am,
before
but
it would've
I'm
been
still not
disaster for you.
convinced that it's, yeah. So I still have that bad taste in my mouth that, because he stood there and said it's gonna be a runoff in my backyard. So, I'm not for it at all.
The runoff to your backyard is actually reduced in the post-construction conditions. There's a lot less stormwater. Yeah, then there's a lot less stormwater, because now it's getting captured, contained, and controlled as compared to, there is no containment from what it is right now. You're gonna see less runoff in your backyard.
And the flooding for sure. I know exactly what you're talking about, right?
I will actually attest and second what Gio just said. Your property was one of the properties I thought of with this new design. You're gonna see less runoff.
Great,
But,
I won't see
but
the
it's
trees.
concentrated, it's basically sent down this big pipe, and it's just not going down your backyard, it's going out to Judge Road. So his point is accurate, but we need to address the flooding issue on Judge Road.
And I don't know if this is the meeting, but are you truly clear cutting everything back there?
Yeah,
Right?
most of it.
So how does that work? And I don't mean to hold anyone up, but like on my property, right on the line of your property or Frankie or whatever, I have big giant trees. So say during the construction or whatever, the roots get damaged. I don't know how that works. Like, obviously it's not going to be immediate, but I know they go there because the trees have been there for who knows how long. So how does that work?
Which, you are.
I'm in the shittiest spot possible, I think. My brother and I.
What's up?
What?
I think we're in the worst spot possible for this
You
one.
can give her a sheet.
Well, Evan on the other side of me is getting the road right next to his bedroom window, so he's probably the worst.
Exactly which property is that. Most of it is getting cut down.
Great.
It's not digging any deeper, so it shouldn't ruin any of the roots.
So visually, it's just gonna be a wide open, nothing to look at anymore.
Yeah.
Great, okay. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing for those speaking in opposition.
And I
Um,
make a recommendation that we leave the public hearing open if we don't take a vote.
Okay,
They're down with the opposition. We want time.
Yeah, both, that's for both parties.
I'm sure I can prove the volume of water and the peak rate of runoff to make sure that flooding is contained, but it may take me about 20 minutes or so. So it's up to
You're saying you could get it right now.
right now I can do it. I have the calculations right here, but it would take me. I'm happy to keep this for tonight, but maybe let the other projects go and table this for right now.
Any,
I'm okay with being convinced at some point in time.
Yeah.
And that's what I need to do. I need to be convinced at
We
some
can do
point in
that
time.
tonight. I just may need some time, and during that time, we can let other hearings go.
We might not get it all done tonight. It's getting kind of late. I don't know what time this commission meeting ends.
we go till we
I think
finish
they're
our
entertaining
agenda.
the fact that we may be able to make a motion to table this right now and move on to the next project before us, but continue it to the next meeting. Am I right about that?
Or I'm just requesting that we table it for right now, and then be the last one after all the other projects are addressed.
Okay.
To
I'll make
basically finish off tonight.
I would like, I'm not in opposition to that, but I would like to ask the commission, is there anybody, my fellow commission members, that is going to second my motion that's on the floor right now?
So your motion is to basically for us to send a letter requesting Lynn Water and Sewer Commission review, come and
To
present.
come to our next public hearing, yeah?
I'll second the motion. I'm not very optimistic, but
So I believe that you requested that previously, and I did send that request along and did not get any response.
I was advised by the city solicitor on how to approach this, and this is the second approach to getting someone here that could tell us what's happening with the Judge Road drain pipe, and can it handle whatever comes out of that new development. That's to say it real simply. Tell us what's happening with the existing Judge Road drain pipe, and convince us that Linzella
So
Lane can.
would we be sending a letter to Lynn Water and Sewer?
Yeah, and asking someone to come to our next hearing and tell us everything's gonna be good.
They may provide a letter. Would a letter suffice?
No, not for me. I want to ask questions. I want to be convinced that this new development that you guys are proposing, I want to make it successful too. I want to be convinced it's not going to cause additional flooding on Judge Road.
I can speak on behalf of the project.
I know you can.
Anytime.
I know you can. I know you can.
Between what it is right now and what it will be.
To compliment you, Gio, you've actually done a very good job here. I can tell.
Thank you.
But it's the output. In the issues that my fellow commission members have that I don't know yet, but your design is actually good. It's delicate, but it's good. I think it's going to meet most, if not all, the regulations that I know of. But the flooding on Judge Road, something needs to be done. Can you convince me it's not going to happen? It already happens. How can you
Right,
not
but the
convince
thing
me?
is,
It already happens. And you're going to add more water to it?
correct, but Our issue isn't to correct the drainage problems on Judge Road. Our issue is whether or not this project is going to add to the problems. And I believe Mr. Federa is saying that he can tell us it will not add to the existing issues along Judge Road.
I understand, Jeremy. I understand where you're coming from, but let me rebut this way. The pond and all the catch basins that feed into the Judge Road drain pipe, existing Judge Road drain pipe, leads to flooding. And we're going to focus with the 15-inch exit pipe from Lanzillo Lane Development. We're going to focus all that water from the 4 acres, or most of it, through that pipe and add to the Judge Road drain pipe. To me, it's a matter of volume. You're increasing the volume in that drain pipe.
So just to clarify, the stormwater is already being discharged to the Judge Road stormwater system.
I disagree.
No, it is. It's overland runoff. It is overland runoff.
It's not all going to the design point, directly to the design point.
It is, though. I mean, we have the calculations to prove it. The design point.
I'm talking about your design point 1, where most of it goes out Lanzillo Lane in that
Yes, because
15-inch
it's
pipe.
it runs overland and into a series of catch basins that ultimately all goes into the same system that it's going to be going into in post-construction. So it's not necessarily adding new stormwater discharges, it's just being directed in a different route.
Yeah, you're concentrating it and you're aiming it right at that pipe.
But it's,
How can Judge Road not be more flooded?
but it's controlled. It's controlled.
Nice, that's nice. Like I said, full throttle on a bad
It's
rainstorm.
Paul, it's being detented in a detention basin beneath Lenzillo, somewhere on their property, and being slowly released over time. That's how those systems work. It's not gonna be focusing it over the same amount of time. That's the point. Is it's because the pipe can handle, X amount of volume, but the thing is that volume should theoretically be moving through the pipe. Whether or not it's obstructed, that's not really, this project's problem. That would be a Lynn Water and Sewer problem. But as that water is being put into the system at a lower peak rate, so it's not going to be stressing the system as much as it currently is, which I believe is what Mr. Federa is trying to get across.
I hear what you're saying, Jeremy, but where my head is camped is that when that system is full, 100% full, and it's pouring out, that water's going to go down or try to go down the Judge Road drain pipe. And I'm saying, can it handle it? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I want to be convinced I'm wrong by a Lynn Water and Sewer Commission engineer. Otherwise, I can't vote in
Well,
the...
we don't have the authority to require that. The only thing that we can do, and I believe you made a motion previously, is we can recommend the hiring of a peer reviewer again, but looking at this project, I mean, I just wrote down the quote from Mr. Fedora that the old plan, which 2 engineers would have had us approve, would have been a disaster. That's a direct quote. So we can hire a person to review this specifically for limiting the review to the drainage design, the output onto design point that you are questioning. And beyond that, I don't believe we have the authority to do anything as far as Lynn Water and Sewer is concerned.
But Mike, the way I'm interpreting the purpose of the bylaws, first paragraph, right?
No, you're absolutely right. But I'm just
This is
limiting it to
causing
who-
flooding. Now,
You
you-
want to hear from an engineer, that's the only authority.
The
you have
engineer's not going to
hire a
convince you. The
peer
engineer's
reviewer.
not going to convince me. It's the interface with the existing drain system in the city streets. That's the, so,
No, but that's what an engineering review would do.
I mean, I'll ask for all the help you're going to give, yes, but I'm just concerned it's not going to push me over the edge. It's not going to convince me.
No, I'm
It's
not
going to fully
attempting to
convince
do
me.
that. I'm just saying the only way we can get someone to review that and attempt to answer your questions is not by requiring the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission to come to our meetings, because I am quite sure they're not going to come. But we can put it in the hands of a person that we hire specifically to review the drainage design and limit it to the drainage design, and particularly that point and the volume and capacity of the BMPs, and whether he would support what Mr. Federa said about the fact that the runoff from the site is reduced, or he may tell us that, in his opinion, the runoff is not reduced and that the design is not compatible with the site, by analyzing the things that you
Then
said earlier
we
about
should do
the
that.
soils and.
If, it might not give me a full answer, but it would definitely give me some information, hiring a consultant, as you say. So I'm not against that, I'm for it. But I want you to understand, it's the increased flooding that this system's gonna cause. Concentrating it out like that, and a counter-argument might say, hey, flooding already exists, so this project is not causing flooding. What I'm saying is, this project's gonna cause increased flooding.
Well, that's, in your opinion and my opinion, is gonna determine what decision is made along with every other member of the board.
Okay.
But having someone either support that or reinforce what Mr. Federa is saying is
Agree.
what a peer review
Well,
would
let's
do.
try that. Let's
And
try that.
the last thing that we had by Mr. Reardon in Weston and Sampson basically found the site to be unsuitable and designed to be unsuitable, and probably they would have agreed, as Mr. Federa said, that it would have been a disaster. So we've avoided a disaster to this point, but if I hear your questions, and I don't know if any other members have similar questions or that, the only way we're gonna get answers and be able to have questions addressed is by having someone come in who
Agreed.
has the qualifications. I mean, I certainly don't feel I have the qualifications to challenge Mr. Federa and his calculations. I have a lot of questions, just like you.
If you could hold that thought, we're gonna come back to hiring the engineer. I think I heard you second my motion to send a letter to the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission.
I did, yeah.
So maybe we should put that to bed first, okay? Have a vote on that, and then I'll make my motion again about hiring the engineer. We can second that, have discussion on that, and put that to bed.
So I'd like to just add, when I had the meeting with the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, they did say in the meeting that they felt comfortable that it would not increase the flooding, and that it was, that Judge Road was capable to withstand the runoff that's being discharged. So maybe if we could get a letter from the Lynn Water and Sewer Department, having them address that in lieu of a consultant. It's already gone through consultants. I mean, I don't know if having another consultant would be necessary, but maybe the Lynn Water and Sewer, they did specifically tell me when I was in the meeting with them that they felt it was comfortable that Judge Road had satisfactory.
If the, excuse me, Mike,
No, no.
if a letter convinces me of my concerns, alleviates my concerns, then a letter would be it. I would rather have a person at a hearing like this so we could ask questions. So a letter from the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission is barely acceptable. I would rather have a person here so we can talk, ask questions, clarifying questions. Someone who's knowledgeable about that drain system. Because to me, it doesn't work today.
And that's not our issue.
I know it's not. I'm going back to my point. Purpose of the bylaws. Something can't cause flooding. You're gonna cause increased flooding.
I disagree.
That's fine.
And the calculations show it. It's been designed to,
Where is the water gonna go?
so it's still going to the same location, it's still going within the Judge Road system, however, it's being distributed at a longer span.
And you're concentrating it so that it's when 100% flowing, you're concentrating it into that pipe.
But it's at it's
The
distributed.
pipe that you say on 2 engineering sheets appears to be blocked. So I need to be convinced.
Follow up with, maybe
And I'm
the
gonna, I'm
Water
gonna,
and Sewer
I'm gonna
Commission's
table my
counting on the
discussion
fact that the
unless,
pipe is blocked.
unless you have specific questions for me. I'm gonna get off my soapbox because I feel I've taken up too much time and I've made my point multiple times. No disrespect to you or to Attorney Vitale. Made my point multiple times. We have a motion that's been seconded about sending a letter to Lynn Water Sewer Commission requesting their presence at the next hearing. See what they say.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that? Can we vote on it?
Do you want me to do a roll call, or
Yeah.
all in favor? You want me to poll individually? How do you want me to?
I say individually.
Jeremy? Brenda?
I'll favor.
Jocelyn? Jeremy?
I would be satisfied with a letter from them saying that I don't feel that their presence at the next meeting is warranted, and I don't feel that they will attend. So I would be satisfied with a letter.
Okay. Paul?
Yes.
All
Favor.
right.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes, all in favor.
Okay.
Do we have any other motions that we,
I'd like to make a motion tonight to hire a consultant engineer to review the data and try to address the increased flooding concern.
I second it, and I also want to uplift what we heard from the abutters, and that's why I'm seconding it, to make sure we're doing our due diligence.
roll call, or you want me to, all in favor?
I,
Aye?
Aye.
I
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to the next meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, continued to the May meeting. Thank you.
And before these gentlemen leave, I want to thank you for good discussion, good candid discussion.
Thank
And we're going to keep working this.
Thank you very much.
One way or another, it's going to happen.
Mr. Beal?
Thank you, everyone, for your patience in the audience.
You what? There was no motion for that, no. Not a site visit.
In the May meeting. And the public hearing is continued.
I was here a month ago, and the Conservation Commission had a couple concerns, but I'll go over the whole project again, so we can all catch up. The project has 50-52 Savory Street. Right now, it consists of 2 single-family homes that are in disrepair. It also has a retaining wall or seawall to Sluice Pond that is in disrepair in 2 spots. The proposal is to repair the wall in the 2 spots, tear the houses down, leaving the foundations, and rebuilding them as 2-story single-family homes. I plan on putting swaddles completely along the whole property line and across the street, which is a silt barrier and hay bales together in one piece. A construction fence to protect anything that might fall down there, can't fall into the pond. The idea, we put the dumpsters one at a time. We would do the wall first, then this house, then this house. So when we're tearing down the house, the dumpster would be on furthest away from the lake as possible, the pond, and the machine would be here, dumpster there, and we would just grab it with a thumb, put it in the dumpster. I know some debris will miss the dumpster, fall out. We'll have someone there picking up as we go. And then we do the second house, same thing. Dumpster here, machine here, so nothing is near the lake. The idea when fixing the wall is to do it by hand, no machines down there at all. The biggest question Conservation had, when I was here last time, was the wall structurally sound, the rest of the wall? I did have an engineer look at it, which you should have all that, I believe that Jamie, they all have a copy of it.
Yep, I sent it
And-
along.
Mr. Beal, can I interrupt you just because I did have some notes from the last meeting?
Yep.
And has the abutter notification been properly
He
done?
hand-delivered,
I
yep.
hand-delivered them. Actually,
Did you get the list from,
yes, I got
He
the list
did,
from Jamie.
yep.
all right, you got the list, so
I hand-delivered to every single household.
if you want to continue on the paperwork.
Yeah,
but,
I think-
Did you submit a written request for the waiver of the no disturb zone
Yes, I did,
for the work on the wall?
yes.
You did?
I emailed it to you. Should be in there.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes. And the reasoning for that, 'cause I know that that no disturb zone is very important, is if we don't repair the wall, then obviously the yard will continue to.
Yeah, no, that was an
erode
important
into
factor,
that.
but just you need that.
And
have the
also,
waiver.
don't I need that letter also for the houses that are too close to the pond to begin with?
Any work that's going to be within 25 feet,
Right,
because there's
which-
no vegetation,
Right.
so
Both
should be
houses within
included in
25
the
feet.
request for the waiver.
Yeah, and I did ask that, I did mention that, and I know that, look, reading the law, it says that you can only rebuild a house if they can't be, tear them down and rebuild them if they're not able to be fixed. And if you've seen those houses, you understand that. My original plan was to leave these houses and work with what was there, but then once I went inside and looked in the basement, I realized that it's a cottage they just pieced together, there's no way. So that was my reason for the request, because it's impossible to rehab these houses into a safe structure. So the determination by the construction engineer, bless you, was that the wall, except in the spots that are falling down, is sound. And he also mentioned I could repair the wall with modern, how do you exactly say it? A modern construction. He gave me the option, in his opinion, to use blocks or whatever. I would prefer to go back with the stones, so the wall isn't stones, block, stones, block. It would be all consistently the same and look nice.
And he will examine it post the work.
Yes, I can have him do that, that's not a problem. I had him examine the foundation, I know that's not your purview, but that was a question from one of the abutters. I had that addressed also while he was there.
The house
no,
foundation?
Yes, and they said that's fine. There was also another question by an abutter was, would the putting two-story homes there affect the wall with pressure and all that? And that was addressed by the structure engineer also, that does not affect the wall.
And that's included in the letter.
Yes, it is, yes. Yes, yes.
So post-development, we'd like a letter from the same, well, not necessarily the same, but
Yeah.
a structural engineer indicating that the wall
Yes,
complies. I looked, the foundations to me look fine, the house
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah, they're cinder blocks, and they look in pretty good shape. As a structure, they point, some, it needs a little pointing here and there, but otherwise, the structure's sound.
Anyone else have any
I don't have anything.
questions or comments?
One other thing that was mentioned was a list of the order.
Yes,
of the work.
I sent that to Jamie. I think I hand-delivered that to Jamie. It would be the wall first, then this home, and then that home, in that order. The wall will be completed before anything else is started, as you know, and backfilled. That was something one of you mentioned, that you want the divot that's now there from the land giving way backfilled to stop that from happening again, even though the wall's built. So that would be completed, the wall and the backfilling, before we start anything, any construction, any tearing down the houses.
Backfill will be done by hand.
Yes, oh, yes, yes. I would have the loam delivered up top and
Right.
then wheelbarrow down. Yes, I meant to say that. There'll be no machines near the water at all.
Mike, when you said there's no vegetation, I believe that's what you said, right?
There may be some vegetation, but I didn't see anything that I would classify as wetland vegetation.
Okay. I think there's trees on the
this
corners of the property? Are there trees at the pond's edge on that property line?
No, there's nothing.
Okay.
It's absolutely bare.
So the reason I asked is, will you be removing any trees? And is that an issue?
There's no trees on the property, and therefore we will be removing no trees.
Okay.
To answer the question though, well, for everybody's, we do have a tree policy that basically, I'd actually have to look at, because we haven't had many times that we have enforced it, but it requires replacement. If a tree is within our jurisdiction, it requires replacement of a
Okay,
certain
good.
size tree with a certain size tree. So
That's good. Kind of like the issue that Peabody's having with that golf course.
the golf course, yeah.
Okay,
Big issue.
all right.
Yeah, we have no trees, and the vegetation that is along here would be maybe grass at one point, kind of overgrown weeds, it's not really upkept at all.
Okay.
You're talking above the wall.
Above the wall, yeah, the wall
Yeah.
right now, from the top of the wall to the footing is about 5 feet, depending on where you measure it. So we're substantially above the water at this point in time. I don't know how much the pond fills over time. I'd expect it to be kind of full right now. So, yeah, there's no water anywhere near what would be grass eventually. It's just a property that, if he's been there, it's just run down. It needs to be redone.
So process question, is the onus now on us to issue an order of conditions for this project? And do we have a list of the conditions, or are we just discussing them?
We have general conditions, and we have
Special?
54, I think there's like 54 conditions.
General conditions? And-
Under the
Okay.
Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw. And basically this, we haven't talked really about this either. Most of these proposals are applied for under one notice of intent that covers both the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaws. So officially, we really should be taking a vote to approve under the Wetlands Protection Act, and then take a vote to approve under the local wetlands bylaw, if we see any differences, like the 25-foot no disturb zone is strictly in the local bylaws.
Okay.
So if we had any concerns like the waiver that Mr. Beal has applied for, that's really just a waiver of the local bylaw requirement. Which
Interesting.
we commonly do waive that for work like the wall that really is constructive, if you can call it that. You know, we don't want the wall falling into the pond, so.
So, Jamie, do you issue the actual order of conditions? So that will be forthcoming after this hearing?
So this, similar to what you signed earlier,
Yeah.
is this sheet.
Yeah.
You'll sign it, and I actually log into the DEP website, which is Yep, and
And that's where the order of conditions are generated from? Okay, interesting.
yep, and the only thing that I attach to it will be your signatures,
Okay,
which, should you vote to approve it, will be on this sheet.
okay. All right, thank you.
Just so you know, most of the time, if we do have a couple of special conditions, aside from the conditions that we have, we'll include that in the motion to approve or deny
Okay.
when that's made, so.
So do we hear any special conditions yet? What for
I
this?
have a couple.
Okay.
We'll
And
get
that-
to that after. Is there anyone here for this project? Would someone like to make a motion?
What about the special conditions?
They'll be
We'll
included
add
in
them.
it.
You'll come in
Usually-
discussion?
Whoever's gonna add them, adds them after the motion is made, and we
So a
then,
motion would be to
right, then we
issue
take
the
the vote
order of
after,
conditions.
right.
I make a motion that we issue orders of condition for this project.
Would you like a second?
Second.
And I would
Discussion?
request that we add two special conditions, that is, no heavy equipment within the 25-foot no disturb zone, certainly, and all of the work on the wall is to be done by hand, the filling and.
Done by what?
Done by hand.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
well, I
no,
can
no,
just,
no, yes.
we're putting that in.
No machines never water.
If every-
I agree with
Mike,
you.
did you mention you'd like the engineer to review the work after it's done?
Yes, that I think on any, that's a good point, though. You should,
Is that
You
special,
can
or
add
is that,
I'm not sure. I'd
oh,
add
you
it.
had it.
All right,
You-
and
It was your idea.
the wall, that's actually a standard thing with any wall that we have, even if it's not
Okay.
over 4 feet, if it's on the wall, to be reviewed and approved by a structural engineer. And then usually whoever makes this.
So there's a motion with a
hands it to
second.
Jamie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Jeremy, still with us?
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeremy,
Aye.
I'm very sorry. I forgot about you again.
No, it's all right. I've been bouncing in and out. I've been having a little bit of technical difficulties where I'm at, but no big deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, thank you. You can either pick it up or I can mail it certified.
I'll put it on.
Okay, I'll call you when it's ready.
I appreciate it.
What?
Thanks.
Yeah.
I found a training.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
I missed these
Yeah.
when we were remote. I was supposed to wing it.
I'll
I'm
take
sorry,
all
I'll
the
move that
training
out of
and
the
help I can get.
Right? I'm just like, where's our pen? No, but then I have to ask Jamie because I think it's like a certain part if we need, it counts as a quorum.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for hearing us tonight.
Sorry about keeping you so long.
That's okay.
It's
you know,
falling.
James
It's falling.
warned me not-
It's falling.
Yeah.
I think it's just.
Tighten that
yeah.
right leg up.
Thank you. So we're here, I'm Jennifer Doyle-Breen from AECom, and Michael Liska from AECom, and then we also have Dan. Thank you.
We're going to be the general contractor, but I need your comments, make sure I explain everything all the way.
So, yes, so we submitted our NOI, which I assume you guys have all seen. So, what I thought I'd do is just give a quick overview, and then we can have questions, anything that you guys might want to ask about. So the project that we're here to talk to you about tonight is the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, the mandatory capital improvements project. So it's for maintenance and upgrades due to aging infrastructure at the existing wastewater treatment facility and also 11 sewage pump stations. So the work planned, like I said, will be repair and maintenance needed to address the aging infrastructure. I'll go through each location. But just want to make sure that everybody knows where the wastewater treatment facility is. It's on the east side of the Linway, fairly near the harbor here.
Jennifer, could I interrupt, actually? I've studied your documents in preparation for this meeting, and I just want to ask my fellow commission members if they have too. Because if they're comfortable, we might save a lot of time with your recap.
Absolutely.
So, but however, on the other side of the coin, if anybody needs to have this briefing, please don't let me stop you. So
I would rather have the briefing.
You'd rather have the briefing?
For my
Okay.
sake, yes.
That's all it takes is one, and that's fine. I'm gonna actually excuse myself. I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Okay, sure. So, again, for anybody who doesn't know where the treatment plant is, because I often we probably take these things for granted, but anyway, this is where it is, for those of you who don't know. So I'm going to talk about the treatment facility first, and then I'll go through each of the pumping stations. So this is the layout. This is the existing Lynn wastewater treatment facility. So it's been here for a very long time, and it's been a while since there has been upgrades and maintenance. That's what the project is about. The only resource area on the project site is borderland septic flooding. So that's shown here in pink. This highlighted line, this is the plan that was in our submittal. where it's being made a little bit bigger, in this location, because it's already in floodplain, now it will be in floodplain in the future. And the third is that there's going to be, right here, is the existing odor control infrastructure. And there are 3 tanks now. They're going to be taken out and replaced with 2 bigger tanks. So I have another problem.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Those tanks should work, right? Alright, hopefully you guys can still overall, actually, there's going to be a net increase in flood storage area by the work that's going on here, because of the regrading, we're going to be increasing flood storage. But the new odor control tanks are going to be a little bit higher than the one that's there now, so there's going to be a small amount of flood volume taken up by that higher odor control facility and floodplain. And so as a result, we did need to have a little flood storage area, which is shown down here in yellow. We put all the numbers in the table in the filing. So this is creating additional flood storage between elevations 13 and 14, because even though we have a net gain here, it doesn't go up at 13 and 14 lower. Okay. So that's what's happening with the treatment facility. So I can go on to all the pump stations now, if anybody has any questions about the treatment facility site itself. So as I mentioned, there are 11 pump stations, but of them, only 5 have work where that's outside of the existing pump station structure or is in a wetland area. And those are the 5 that are highlighted here, at Weed Street, Camden Street, Hanson Street, Lawson Street, and Washington Street. So I'm going to go through each one relatively quickly, just to give you an overview. Remind you what was in our filing. This one is Reed Street. So this is along the Saugus River. The river is out here. This is an existing pumping station. This is existing infrastructure. The only thing that's happening here is, correct me if I mistake, but I think the only thing that's happening here is we're replacing an electric panel. There's an existing electric panel. We're going to take it out and put a new one in, same size, no net change in flood storage area. Still, it is within 100-foot buffer zone of bank, which is highlighted here in yellow, to the south.
I can attest they're there all the time checking on it, because I live on the street.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I would say we're relocating the electrical panel so that we can put it on a 1-foot tall concrete pedestal to get it up out of the floodplain, so that pump station can operate within the 100-year flood event. They are also replacing piping within the existing pump station. That piping valve only has a 21-inch diameter access right now. You might take that asphalt off with concrete piece on, replace the piping, and throw that back on when they're done. Very minimal impact with the Fredo.
Yeah, it's paved now.
Yes, it's paved now.
We're just putting the new electrical panel in a different spot. Okay, next, I think is Camden. Yes, Camden. Okay, so at Camden, again, there's an existing below-grade pump station. So we're going to be demolishing that, putting in a new below-grade pump station and valve vault, and there's also going to be a new sewer force main installed in the street. Again, all this work is in 100-year floodplain, DLSF, but there's no change in elevation. Next, we have Hanson Street. Again, this side just shows the existing. This is the existing pump station. It's going to be demolished and replaced with, again, a new below-grade pump station. And similarly at Lawson Street, same thing. There's an existing pump station that's going to be demolished and replaced with new below-grade infrastructure. And then finally, we have Washington Street, yes. So here at Washington Street, similar type of approach. This is an existing pump station shown by the hatching. It's going to be demolished. This is a 100-year floodplain at Washington. Oh, the last two I should have mentioned too. The whole thing is a 100-year floodplain. I said I didn't have this plot scale. The whole thing, all work is a 100-year floodplain. So here we're demolishing the existing, and we're going to put in, again, infrastructure. Here there is an above grade entrance right now in the floodplain where that's going to be demolished. There is going to be a tiny corner here of your structure that is in the floodplain above the grade, but again, if people were taking some out, we're putting some in, so it's people. And I forget, is this an electric panel?
Yeah.
Okay, little electric one. Okay, yeah. And that's really it. So again, all the work is in floodplain, except for the street rearming on site as well. And that's pretty much, that's the overview. And certainly not the
Is there any need for any erosion control on the site, or how are you gonna handle the demolishing and?
So at Reed Street, we do show erosion control. I apologize, this is sort of like a little bit over a large scale, but yeah, there'll be a silt sock here along the edge. The other sites are mostly, I think they're all in paved areas for the most part. At the wastewater treatment facility, we will, I believe we discussed that we would be over the threshold for the construction general permit, so we would have to file coverage for construction general permit with EPA and DEP, and it'd be done as part of that, and it would show where erosion control would be at the lower downslope portion of the site, and I think they're going to yes, we do, right here. This is sort of the low point where things could potentially flow off the site. So we've got some on here, and also down here on the location.
Okay, in the demolishing, will there be a need for any heavy equipment, trucks, or anything else to collect the demolished materials and that?
Yes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not going to be storing any soil on site, so they'll be digging it up.
Into the truck and-
Into the truck and taking it back to the commission's treatment facility.
Right now, any of the sites that had the excavation, we would direct load into the truck, bring it to the West Commission land. Then they're gonna there, and then bring it back. No site is large enough to do it.
Okay, but is there concrete debris in that that's gonna be collected?
Everyone's site is slightly different, but the large sites, you have a dumpster there, so the concrete debris goes back. Some of the sites actually get back.
Okay.
Yeah, top wall. Yeah, all the pump stations are for demolishing. We don't actually dig it all the way out. Cut the top off 4 feet or so that you can run these footings over top of it without any issues with the rest of the so with the low strength concrete.
So all the demolished materials will be removed, that aren't gonna be used, will be removed from the site via trucks, and the trucks and any heavy equipment will be as far as possible away from resource areas. I don't know if anybody else has any.
I have just a actual good comment. I'm one of the 4 new members of this commission, only 3 months in to doing stuff like this. And I want to compliment you on your report. When I read through it, actually for the second time today in detail, I had a number of questions that were subsequently answered by your documents. Very well put together, so I wanted to compliment your team. And please pass on to everyone else involved. I was very impressed.
They've done this a couple times.
Yeah, you think so? It's not their first rodeo. So, and it's good. So, keep it up. It was actually a pleasure to review it. I think everything is covered. One of the most impressive things I read in your report was, I think I made a note of it. you actually hired or used one of your scientists to determine the affected areas. And I forget the. Yes, yes. Very, very impressive that you covered all the bases. So I just wanted to say that, and that's the only comment I have.
That kind of leads into one question that I had, and that is on Lakeview and Joel Circle, the work was not in an area that's jurisdictional, because there are, there's, the pond is on Lakeview, and Joel Circle, there's a wetland resource area up there, I don't know.
All the work at Lakeview and Joel Circle are completely contained within the pump station. They'll be draining the pump stations out, replacing the pumps and the piping. There's no ground disturbance.
So even if it's jurisdictional, there's no impacts. I just wanted to get that on the record just in case, because it was very difficult to tell where in those two spots, if it was jurisdictional or not. So at least we've discussed it and it's been addressed.
And did you ask, when I was absent, about the DEP file number?
It's not even listed.
No, it's not there yet. I looked at the website, so often I'll call, and sometimes you get a better answer when you call, but I didn't think to do it until it was after the last time, so I don't think it's.
Okay.
Which means you probably, I don't think you can put it.
Right, yeah.
Can't, yeah.
Can we, versus, I don't know what close the hearing means, but can we approve this on condition of that?
We could,
We can try. I'm not sure what DEP will say, and Paul's point is valid. I mean, I would just.
I'm ready to make a motion to approve this project in hopes that you don't have to come back just because you got a file number. You know what I mean? I don't know
so
if
we
we can do that.
could leave it open until the next meeting, close it and issue it after that. Yeah,
Is that
well,
all right with the time frame that they're proposing? Or? As Paul says, I wouldn't want
Because
to be
I'm-
on record as holding it up either. But
I'm just thinking that if I put when the hearing was closed, they'll send it back.
Yeah, I think you have to keep it open, but like, to your point, we don't necessarily need to.
Correct.
No,
Get the
right.
file number and everything's fine, you can just email me and say, we got the file number, you're all set.
Yes.
Come back, and then the next.
So can I make,
would have you also, excuse me, have you email us a reminder
Yes, I will make.
to make sure we get on, it gets on the agenda?
Yeah, I'll remind you.
Okay,
so can I make a motion to have this approved,
yes, please.
pending the file number, or
No.
approved?
We have to continue the hearing till the next meeting and then
Yeah.
take the vote then, I believe.
Yeah, take the
right?
vote at the next meeting.
Okay,
But she
Okay.
won't have to come,
No,
or
okay.
they won't
Further
have to
present-
come.
okay, hey, we got you covered.
That's right.
All right,
And we'll sign at the next meeting as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
for the same reason, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being
Thank
patient.
you for your patience.
Sorry it was so late.
Who wants to take that one?
Someone want to make a motion to continue?
Continue.
We need a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Can I make a motion to continue the public hearing till the next meeting?
Yes.
Have a second? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Did everybody get his?
Jeremy? Oh, jeez. Thank you
Yep,
very
that's
much.
Okay, you were telling.
Okay, so I think we're finally winding down.
Well, we're winding down.
So we're finally winding down to the extension of the order of conditions for Sluice Pond. So we had previously extended it, and they're looking, this is for the pond treatment?
Just out of curiosity, why is it extended? Is it because of what they're doing needs to be extended? Or why
Because the
does
order
it
of,
take 6 years to treat a pond?
oh, they treat it every year.
They treat it what?
They treat it every year.
So
It's
therein lies
algae.
the reason for the extension, they just keep extending it And treatment-
Because,
Okay. That makes sense.
because it's ongoing.
It's what?
It's ongoing.
Ongoing,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Okay, I get it. I don't see any reason why not to approve this extension. You guys? I make a motion to approve the extension
Second.
for the treatment of Sluice Pond.
Second?
I was
Oh,
second. Yeah,
sorry.
that's
I'm
okay.
with the switch. All in favor?
Aye.
Here we go with the.
Aye.
Oh, thanks, Jeremy.
Voice from beyond.
So on the Goldfish Pond,
Is there extra materials? I think Brenda needs. Brenda, right?
Yeah.
I'd usually rather things.
Awesome, thanks.
But they still want a letter from the commission.
So this is.
Wrote something down on that.
Yeah.
I got one, thank you, Jane, but I, something, I'm a little,
Oh, I'm leaving Jeremy out again. So Jeremy, Goldfish Pond, they treat that, I guess, with,
algicide, I think.
yes, not insecticide.
Sorry.
Or maybe.
It might, who knows? I think it's algicide.
So they're looking for a letter from us. I could read you this. Good afternoon, Jamie. We've been in touch with Mass DEP regarding the permit process for Goldfish Pond. Mass DEP is requesting that the Lynn Conservation Commission write a letter stating that Goldfish Pond is considered non-jurisdictional / considered exempt from an order of conditions. Would this be something that you could put together for us? David Wong from Mass DEP said once he receives the letter, he will issue a water and wetland a permit to treat the pond in a quick turnaround time. Our plan was to treat the pond this Thursday during the site visit. If we could turn the letter around as soon as possible, that would be greatly appreciated, as Goldfish Pond most certainly needs a treatment. Once the letter is completed, you can send it to myself or Colin, and we will send it over to David in the application. I mentioned in our permit application that the pond is less than an acre in size with no inlets / outlets and is completely lined, but they also want something in writing from the Conservation Commission in addition. Thank you. And that's signed James LaCassie, Senior Environmental Scientist, Project Manager from Water and Wetlands. That's the new company. It had previously, the vendor was Solitude. Lake Management was who we had been dealing with.
Great, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, I would maybe word it in such a fashion that says the Conservation Commission has no issue with treatment of Goldfish Pond. As simple as that, right?
I think you're right in the letter, and you might put some, I was thinking possibly, they're talking about doing it tomorrow, the day
Yeah.
after tomorrow, or tomorrow?
Yeah, Thursday.
Thursday, thank you. So you might include something, and we could put that into Paul's, if he has a motion about, we also grant an emergency permit in the event that it's somehow determined to be jurisdictional. So I don't think that's the case, but just in case, if they have to get, I mean, I don't know how much they have in place for that date, but we could include that in the motion to send the letter and grant permission under an emergency permit to allow for the treatment without a determination of jurisdiction if that's necessary.
Mike, you have a concern that Goldfish Pond might be jurisdictional?
Well, you never know that it could be fed by something underground that you, I mean, it could be a stream that goes in. I don't really, I know the history, if you go back far enough, I've seen pictures where
Here's
it
the-
basically was a swamp.
You're,
But now it's
you're
been
welcome.
lined and everything else.
Based on the letter, it says no inlet, no outlet, and it's lined.
Right.
To me, it's like,
They only put the water in it, that's fine.
that was the
if
data
that's the
presented to
case-
us just now, so
Yeah,
it's like,
That's the
Well,
case.
isn't the
Yeah, I only
intent
got that
it's,
this morning.
that it's man-made, so there's no,
there's no
like
inlet, there's
outside,
no outlet,
yeah.
and it's lined.
If there's no inlet and outlet, then
That's
there's
what
no
they-
question that.
So if we believe that to be true, then, I mean, I don't want to squash your concern, I just want to
No,
understand.
I want to make sure it gets done. That's all
Well,
I
I know
agree.
that when water and
Yep.
sewer cleans it, they drain it.
So how do they drain it? With a pump? Oh, all right, so there isn't a.
Where
there
is
isn't
it?
a drain. It's
Goldfish
right off
Pond?
of Lewis Street.
Lafayette?
Yeah.
Lafayette.
Yeah,
Lafayette
like off
Park,
of
right.
Lewis Street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lewis.
But then all the
Yeah, I was saying, no more goldfish.
But do they put goldfish in there?
I think they do.
Okay.
They restock
They
it.
should run around with a
Yeah,
net
they
and scoop them
restock,
out.
yeah.
I know.
All right, I'm fine with
Okay.
that motion if
Make a
anybody wants
motion
a
that-
second.
So we'll get a second,
Second.
every second?
I second it.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. I think that's our hefty agenda for tonight.
well,
What about the
maybe
union
not.
Oh, no, it's not. I forgot all about
That
it.
was like the Oak Consulting Group. Let's remember.
Yeah, so he sent that to me in March. He has a conflict for the May, so I told him that I would pass it out tonight. But I told him as a courtesy, since I forgot to include him on the agenda this month.
I know I will have at least two questions, I believe, that I think he can answer. We did accept modifications. They did an amended plan, I don't know if you remember that, but they did. And one concern that I have is they put in the subsurface drainage structures, and I'm not sure, but it seems like based on the last calculations and the outlet pipe there, that the subsurface drainage structures might be below the water table, which would mean they're not functioning. And I think they tied in the roof runoff into that. But all I know is, I mean, I lived up there for umpteen years, and under the old thing, whenever you went by on the, as you're coming off of Linfield Street, on the left-hand side, the drain that was there was 90% of the year empty. And now it's always, it's a, I don't know, it's at least a 48-inch drain, and now it's always half full. Always. And I can't figure that out. So I just like him to. So that, I'll send that in as a question. And I did have two things to add on the old business. One is, Paul, I don't know whether you've been by St. Joe's, but they did repair that. Oh, good. Drain.
He called. He was very apologetic.
Oh, is that right? Oh, the guy from the
Yeah,
cemetery?
so I mailed it to the Archdiocese, and they got it to him, and he called. He was very apologetic, and he explained, I'm not familiar with the area, so it really was lost on me a little bit, but he said that it's not that they plowed down that way, but there's a visitor who likes to visit a grave down there, so they always make sure that they clear it. So he said that it could look like they push everything that way, but
They're
the
just plowing
reality of
snow?
it is they're just trying to make her a path. But he was very apologetic, and he was going to get right out there and fix it. So
He did fix
I'm
it?
glad to say, I told him that people will be passing.
We'll be watching.
That's good.
And Southside, you sent out a notice about,
So
I
he
haven't
came
been by,
in.
oh, he did come in?
He came in, and I just explained to him that he could have been fine. He should have come to us, and that before he does anything else, he needs to come back and see me.
And who's this again?
Southside Ave,
Who's that?
Is this the shed?
It was the complaint, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the shed, but also the grading, and work, and he just didn't know.
I'm totally not getting this.
A man put a foundation in for a shed right there on the Saugus River extension on Southside Avenue. And it was a complaint.
You had actually said, instead of doing.
Oh, yes, yes,
the
yes, yes,
enforcement order,
yes.
why don't we just tell him that he.
Okay.
He should have come to us.
And did we?
We did.
And what happened?
He came in.
Okay.
And he was,
No, wait, south side, is that the guy with the big house at the end?
not that
No,
one.
not that
No,
one.
that was a
Yeah.
different one.
Oh, it was in the
That's
center.
a
Oh,
different
he
one.
knows
Yeah,
better.
he knows better, that's right.
We
He's
still,
like, I think so.
we still get complaints on that one.
Yep.
Oh, I hate that. I look at it, and yeah.
No, this is, the one that put a shed in and he
Yeah,
did a
it's
little,
number 24.
like.
Oh, I remember that.
24,
Yeah.
He did a little grading, not a lot, but he did some. And, he genuinely didn't know. He came, I mailed it out and he
Yeah,
was.
we would have probably issued a negative determination, I
Yeah.
think, but where we had a complaint, you know.
So he was, I mailed it out, he was here, like, I wanna say 2 days later.
His neighbor clearly hated him.
That's one of those neighborhood things that,
Yeah.
boy, the end of the street, was that a neighborhood thing?
Oh, my God.
Said, this is just letting you know that you can't do that work on the soil there. You
Okay.
have to come talk to me before you do anything anymore.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And then,
Yeah.
so he agreed and he was very sorry, but happy that it wasn't a fine. He said, what is this?
You know how to start it off, just tell them we could have fined you, but that's how you get cooperation. Good job, Jay.
So, have we finally reached the end?
I think so. I'll
What are you
email
gonna
you
make our
questions.
favorite motion?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll email you questions when I review this.
Jeremy, you ready for that motion?
I am.
Oh, and congratulations, I heard.
Thank you.
I was
She
talking
was
to your
thrilled.
mother.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's very excited to start touring wedding venues. I would rather be touring houses, but that's okay.
And very romantic.
Oh, you heard the whole story, huh?
I sure did.
He only gets what he deserves.
So anyway, without embarrassing you further, that'll be all.
Well, I learned a ton tonight. I appreciate you veterans
Yeah, for real.
keeping us.
Thank you for tuning in.
I don't know how long that'll last with me. You may not appreciate it.
I have a
Oh, Lord.
question. How
No
many
problem.
people have to meet for it to be considered quorum? Four?
4 out of 7.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, I found a training about specifically conservation commissions that's done by an independent party. And there's 4 of us that are new, but if it's a training, does that still count as a meeting?
So you want, go
No,
through the
you
MACC. I can send you guys the information. So they actually have a whole.
I think that's when I was.
All right,
Yeah.
Jeremy, I think
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna
that's
log
the
us
Mass
off.
Conservation Commission. And you can actually.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you guys
Have a
later.
good night. It's only a matter of time before they get
Something,
these
you
lights
know?
out.
Hang on the fridge?
Yeah.
The only thing I
Yeah,
would say
I'm
about
out here
that
at work for another hour.
even though you might be
so
tempted, don't
This is a good
discuss
distraction.
anything about anything
Have a
we're
wonderful
actually
night.
working on here. That would be the
You too.
only
Bye.
concern I would have about the 4 people going for training, I don't think would.
You take
be a
different
problem.
classes, probably.
Okay, we
Like
would.
they, normally,
Is
like
it one of
they,
those open things?
yeah, normally the MACC, you have like your class choices of what you want to do.
Oh, okay.
So, and there wouldn't be anything if you were in.
Oh, I thought I was gonna reach out to them, and be like, hey, can you train the 4 of us? And
No,
then I
no,
would
no.
reach- Okay,
Nope.
so
you, with your service on the school